In the brightly lit, bustling mall, a particularly striking couple stood out in the crowd. They were about to get engaged and were here to pick out a ring. But midway, Zhou Shua's phone kept ringing nonstop, and he had to step out to take the call. Song Simiao was already used to her fiancé's busy schedule. After browsing through the latest collections without much interest, she asked, "Do you have any rings from the True Love series by Zheng Yuan?" The sales associate offered an apologetic smile and explained, "I'm sorry, ma'am. The True Love series is one of our top sellers this season. Unfortunately, the last one was just reserved. If you don't mind leaving your contact information, we can arrange for one from our main store and we'll notify you as soon as it arrives." Though slightly disappointed, Song Simiao wasn't willing to wait longer. She was about to politely decline when suddenly, a hand reached out from the side, pushing a pair of rings from the True Love series toward her. "If you like it, Miss Song, I don't mind letting it go." Song Simiao was taken aback and sized up the woman in front of her. The woman was tall and graceful, dressed in the latest fashion, with a ruby necklace at her neck that added a touch of vibrancy. She exuded confidence and allure. Raising her brows slightly, Song Simiao said with a hint of curiosity, "You seem familiar. Have we met before?" "No, we haven't. I just recently got to know about you, Miss Song. I happen to follow Zheng Yuan, especially its True Love series, which is the brand's highlight this season. It's said that Zheng Yuan's founder designed it especially for his lover, as a symbol of their love." Her words were full of admiration, though a faint hint of sarcasm seemed to sneak in, which almost went unnoticed by Song Simiao. "Such deep love, truly enviable. How could I compete for something that was meant for its rightful owner?" Song Simiao slid the ring back and replied with composure, "You're overthinking it. It's just a rumor. Thank you for your offer, but I prefer to let things take their course and don't enjoy taking something cherished by others." "Miss Song has principles, I see." The woman's tone was ambiguous. Song Simiao's smile faded as she sensed a hint of provocation. "It sounds like there's something you want to say." She met the woman's gaze and said, "Feel free to speak plainly. I don't care for subtle hints, and I'm not interested in listening to veiled implications from a stranger." The woman shrugged and extended her hand, introducing herself formally. "Nice to meet you, Miss Song. My name is Zheng Yuan. You may have heard of me. I'm a live stream host and your fiancé's girlfriend of 7 years." Song Simiao's smile froze, and her expression darkened. She and Zhou Shua had been together for only 3 years. She pursed her lips tightly but quickly responded, "We don't know each other, and I'm supposed to take your word for it just because you say so? Are you a rival business associate of Zhou Shua's, trying to smear him? Otherwise, show me real proof." Zheng Yuan was impressed by Song Simiao's calm and logical demeanor, and it made her feel a shred of admiration. She smirked and replied coldly, "As a public figure, I don't need to damage my own reputation just to ruin your fiancé's. If you want proof, I have it all. Photos, videos, and chat records from the beginning of my relationship with Zhou Shua to the present, all on my phone. But there's really no need for that." She tilted her head toward the door, catching a panicked gaze. Nothing's clearer than a three-way confrontation. Zhou Shua had returned and was immediately greeted by 2 cold stares, causing his heart to skip a beat. His back broke out in a cold sweat, yet he feigned calmness and asked, "You two know each other?" Zheng Yuan looked at him with disdain, a cold smile on her face. "I came here on purpose." Holding back her anger, Song Simiao said, "I recognize her, but I don't know you anymore." Zhou Shua's mind raced as he considered the impact on his business. Without Song Simiao's final investment, the penalties alone would bankrupt him, and Zheng Yu's hard-won success might crumble. After weighing his options, Zhou Shua moved to take Song Simiao's hand, but she pulled away, her face icy and distant. His expression turned pale as his eyes reddened. "Meow meow. Please let me explain. I didn't mean to deceive you." Turning to Zheng Yuan, he tried to sound apologetic, though he avoided her gaze. "I'm sorry, Zheng Yuan. Meeting Meow Meow made me want to end things with you, but I didn't know how. We've been together for years as lovers and business partners, and I never wanted to hurt you. But I ended up doing just that. Blame me." but my feelings for Miao Miao are genuine. Please let us be together." Zheng Yuan looked at him in disgust. "Could you be any more revolting?" She stepped back and sneered. "Do you think you're starring in a soap opera cast as the male lead? Take a look at yourself. Zheng Yuan, have wealth and looks and suitors lining up down the street. Why would I cling to leftovers?" Zhou Shua's expression remained remorseful, as if her words brought him relief. "If saying that makes you feel better, say whatever you like." This emotional drama had drawn quite a crowd. After a silent moment, Zheng Yuan's last trace of affection faded as she sneered at herself for clinging to false hopes. 7 years of love had left a mark only in her own heart. With a cold expression, she declared, "I'm a person who finishes what I start. I came here to put an end to 7 years of wasted youth. From now on, we're enemies." She put on her sunglasses, concealing the faint redness around her eyes. "Mr. Zhou, these years weren't wasted, but I hope you're tougher than your words." Nodding coolly at Song Simiao, she turned and left. A trace of fear seized Zhou Shua, but his mind focused on salvaging his relationship with Song Simiao. For over 3 years, she had been gentle and understanding, so unlike Zheng Yuan's fiery demeanor. He remained hopeful as he pleaded earnestly, with all his heart, almost moving himself. Song Simiao lowered her gaze, staring at the sparkling jewels on display. After a moment, she ordered the rings she had chosen to be packaged. Zhou Shua thought she'd softened and sighed in relief, quickly offering, "How could I let you pay? Let me." Song Simiao brushed away his card, her expression cold and distant. "You misunderstand, Mr. Zhou. I merely feel it would be a waste to let my initial happiness be ruined because of you. Happiness is precious, and I can afford it. I'd rather keep this symbol of joy for myself." With a hint of a smile, she added, "But it has nothing to do with you. Please show some self-awareness." Zhou Shua froze. The sales clerk, who'd been silently cheering for the scene, quickly took Song Simiao's card with a smile. With a look of feigned hurt, Zhou Shua murmured, "Miao Miao, after over 3 years, are you really just letting this go?" Looking at him, Song Simiao gently replied, "You reminded me. Feelings can be let go, but my money is a different story." She was realistic and calm, saying, "You should know that when I invested in Qingyu, it was for its potential. But you concealed your relationship with the main streamer, which has now fallen apart, leaving you without a first-mover advantage in live e-commerce, something critical to my original investment terms. This responsibility lies with you. As for whether I'll pursue the return of my investment and halt any further funding, my team will reevaluate. If necessary, we'll take legal action to reclaim the funds. Please be prepared." Zhou Shua's hand recoiled as if stung, releasing her wrist abruptly, a chill washing over him. The women's revenge came swiftly and ruthlessly. That very night, Zheng Yuan announced her single status in a live broadcast. Her expression remained cold, brushing off fan inquiries with minimal response. This unusual demeanor only fueled curiosity, leading fans to bombard her inbox with a flood of questions and speculations. The older fans who knew about the relationship were particularly furious, convinced their idol had been wronged. They began piecing together every detail until they unearthed proof of Zhou Shua's infidelity, exposing it for all to see. Qingyu's sales plummeted. Qingyu had initially gained traction through Zheng Yuan's live streams and her consistent promotion. Gradually, it garnered a modest following. Seeing the opportunity, Zhou Shua branded every marketing effort with "recommended by top streamer Zheng Yuan," essentially positioning her as the product's spokesperson. As Zheng Yuan's fame skyrocketed, Qingyu followed suit, becoming a well-known brand. Zhou Shua crafted Qingyu's image, linking it to youthful romance and subtly referencing his beloved in interviews, cultivating an image of a devoted founder. This strategy paid off, as Qingyu's true love line became a huge hit. Yet, the very narrative he had constructed turned out to be his downfall. His carefully woven devotion, the cornerstone of Qingyu's reputation and sales, was as fragile as a soap bubble, easily burst. And Song Simiao was ruthless in action as well as words. The very next day, she sent a manager and a lawyer to his company. Not only was her future investment withdrawn, but she also contested a previous round of funding, effectively halting Zhou Shua's operations. Without her capital, he couldn't pay his suppliers, and his goods were withheld. He had to turn to smaller domestic suppliers, yet the quality of jade was unpredictable. Qingyu faced a wave of returns, and those customers who hadn't followed the online gossip were left disappointed, leading to further attrition. Zhou Shua was filled with both disappointment and anger. Yes, he had deceived them, but he'd also invested wholeheartedly in the relationships, time, money, and the effort he'd poured in. Who would compensate him for that? Why did they act like pure victims, blaming him for everything? Zheng Yuan was irrational and Song Simiao downright malicious. For the first time, he regretted his actions with Song Simiao, especially the fact that he'd played the gentleman, trying to impress her without pushing further. If he'd had any compromising evidence against Song Simiao, would she have dared to treat him this way? But Zhou Shua considered himself adaptable. With Song Simiao evading him, he decided that he couldn't just sit back and take it. As Zhou Shua entered Zheng Yuan's office, she was busy selecting products with her assistant. At the sight of him, her expression darkened. She had nearly forgotten she'd once given him a spare elevator card, considering he hadn't shown up in so long. Under the watchful gaze of her employees, she kept her irritation in check and led Zhou Shua to her office. Zhou Shua looked haggard, with bloodshot eyes and a faint stench of alcohol. Covering her nose, Zheng Yuan asked, "How much did you drink?" "Coming here to make a scene?" Without looking up, he replied, "I couldn't face you without a drink." Leaning against the window, she chuckled coldly. "Save it. I find it disgusting." Zhou Shua bowed his head, a guilty expression on his face. "I know it's my fault, but after 7 years together, after everything we've been through, are you really not going to give me another chance?" He played the sympathy card, looking at her. "Remember our toughest years? We shared that tiny basement apartment, barely big enough to turn around. We couldn't even afford takeout. I'd rush to the supermarket just before closing time to grab whatever discounted meat and eggs they had. We vowed to make something of ourselves, and when you fell seriously ill, I stayed by your side, watching over you all night." Their past moments together, once heartwarming, now only highlighted the bitterness between them. Rubbing her temples, Zheng Yuan cut him off impatiently. "That's enough. What do you want?" "Qingyu is in trouble." "Yuan, can you please help by clearing things up in your live stream? Make it a main feature, just this once." Zhou Shua tried to keep his tone controlled, hiding his desperation. "Qingyu was built with your help, and I know you don't want to see it ruined. So you do realize that Qingyu wouldn't be where it is today without my contribution," Zheng Yuan scoffed. "Do you think your brand would have ever gotten access to quality suppliers without me? Or been able to hold off competition with inflated prices?" "We both know the answer. Your marketing tied itself to my personal brand, and every dollar you earned was from the sacrifices I made for Qingyu. And to spare your pride, I hardly ever mentioned it. Yet here you are preaching about loyalty while thinking only of yourself." In its early days, Qingyu was just an obscure brand, while Zheng Yuan was already gaining popularity as a live stream shopping host. She had promoted Zhou Shua's brand without compensation, even as her fans questioned her repeatedly, putting her own reputation on the line. Competing brands had exploited this angle to undermine her, and her career stalled. As the live shopping industry blossomed, Zheng Yuan's expert knowledge and engaging commentary made her a top host in the jewelry sector on the Taoyuan platform, lifting Qingyu to the status of an exclusive brand alongside her. Knowing full well that Qingyu doesn't share profits with me and depends on my support, you still tried to pull one over on me. Did you assume I'd be too loyal to let you fail?" Zhou Shua's face contorted with pain. "I was just desperate. I couldn't stand the thought of going back to where we started, so I made a mistake. 3 years ago, I bought a batch of fake materials, and Qingyu was on the hook for a huge payout. If I couldn't secure enough funding, we'd lose everything we'd worked for. I couldn't bring myself to burden you while you were going through a rough patch on your platform, so I made a bad choice. A temporary lapse in judgment that somehow stretched on for 3 years, she asked, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Si Miao is a kind-hearted girl. I couldn't bear to hurt her, so I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth. Such a noble lover. Zheng Yuan's expression twisted into a mocking sneer. Can't bear to hurt her, or can't bear to lose her family's financial backing? Abruptly, Zhou Shua knelt, inching toward her with a pleading look. Ah, Yuan, I'm a mess. Hit me, curse me, do whatever you need. Just help me one last time, for the sake of our years together. Zheng Yuan took a deep breath, looking him over carefully. After a long pause, she finally replied, Fine, I'll help you. But you got one thing wrong. Our relationship ended the moment you decided to cheat on me. She stepped back, her tone polite yet distant. Mr. Zhou, my team will set up a business rate for you. Consider it a friends and family discount. But as for anything else, I'm afraid I can't do much. Her live stream followed strict product standards, and not just any brand could secure a spot. If Qingyu returned to her stream, it would not only serve as a testament to its quality, but also subtly counter the rumors, an enormous favor in truth. Zhou Shua froze, unprepared for her response. He'd grown accustomed to her accommodating his needs without payment. It suddenly dawned on him. Zheng Yuan was a top-tier streamer with millions of fans, and her advertising fees were astronomical, far beyond his current budget. His hopeful smile faltered, replaced by a look of discomfort as he stammered, Of course. But right now, my cash flow is tight. Could I pay you later? Swallowing hard, he insisted, I promise I won't leave you waiting. Expressionless, she hit the nail on the head. So you came here expecting a free ride. People say shamelessness is unbeatable, and Zhou Shua, you've achieved world-class levels. Her tone dug into him, each word stripping away his last shreds of pride. You've got some nerve, draining me dry while spending someone else's money, yet still trying to guilt-trip me? I was polite in clearing up our relationship. I could have said much worse. Don't try harassing me again, or I won't hold back. I know I'm despicable, but I have no choice. Zhou Shua's forehead was beaded with sweat. Zheng Yuan, please, just this one last time. Pity me. She lifted her chin slightly, her gaze cold and unforgiving. I'd pity a dog before I'd pity you. Are you really that heartless, Zheng Yuan? Get out. Zhou Shua's face flushed. Fine. Not a shred of care after all these years. Already found someone new, haven't you? Her response was swift, a call to security, leading to his swift removal. She didn't even dignify his baseless accusations with a glance. What she couldn't see as he left the building was the way Zhou Shua clutched the pen pinned to his chest, a glint of triumph in his eyes. Before tonight's live stream, her assistant, Zhu Ning, approached with his phone, hesitating to speak. Zheng Yuan tossed her script aside, frowning. What's the issue? He handed her the phone. Sister Yuan, take a look. The screen displayed the platform's trending live streams, one of which was rapidly gaining traction. She clicked on it to see Zhou Shua's carefully groomed face filling the frame. Her face darkened. This guy's just a minor streamer with little following. He announced a mystery guest at the last minute, revealing Zhou Shua only 10 minutes before his stream started, and he's going live a full half-hour before us. We didn't see it coming. Zhu Ning was furious at this blatant tactic to siphon their viewership. You know, the recent scandals caused quite a stir. It was just starting to calm down. Now, this sleazeball's claiming he's promoting a new product, but he's spent half an hour talking about you, like a parasite. Many fans couldn't stand it and went to insult him, but his viewership keeps climbing, already over 500,000, and it's still rising. Zhou Shua's looks catered perfectly to current trends, with wire-rimmed glasses softening his expression as he calmly responded to viewers' criticisms, subtly portraying himself as a victim. He and the host skillfully bantered, constantly bringing up Zheng Yuan's name. With carefully crafted hints, he gave the impression that mentioning her was unavoidable, as though speaking her name filled him with regret. In these gossip-laden times, romantic drama was a guaranteed draw. Zheng Yuan's lips pressed into a tight line. Zhu Ning studied her expression and hesitantly suggested, "Should we cancel tonight's live?" The world often seemed to harbor more malice toward women in situations like this. After a long silence, she rubbed her forehead and said, "The show goes on. We've got a contract with the brand, and we've already promoted it. We can't damage our credibility." After a moment of thought, she added, "Tell the operations team to moderate the comments tonight and block anything too nasty." Sure enough, as soon as the live stream started, a flood of gossip seekers poured in. The mix of teasing bystanders, supportive fans, and trolls hired by competitors created utter chaos. The operations team struggled to control the chat, and the disruptive atmosphere scared off genuine customers. As soon as the stream ended, Zheng Yuan contacted the brand. The chaotic environment hadn't met their expectations, effectively damaging her reputation. She offered to host another stream once things calmed down. Later, she arranged a late-night meal for the team and reassured them gently, "Thanks for your hard work tonight. This mess has blown up, and the impact isn't great. I think it's best to pause the streams for a couple of days until things settle. Let's keep an eye on the online conversation." Despite her calm exterior, frustration simmered beneath. Her public image was high-end, targeted toward upper-middle-income clients. Engaging in a drawn-out personal scandal would only drag down her brand's value. She'd avoided venting on stream for this reason. Unfortunately, while she planned to wait out the scandal, Zhou Shua was a marketing genius and knew the power of seizing the moment. That very night, he posted a dramatic apology. In it, he apologized, reminisced, and revealed his supposedly heartfelt regrets, each line dripping with shame and remorse. The post immediately went viral. Social media users, ever ready to indulge in a redemption narrative, began flooding her comments with pleas for forgiveness. The situation escalated the following afternoon. A blogger released a heavily edited recording, igniting further reversals in public opinion. "I'd pity a dog before I'd pity you. Zheng Yuan, are you really this heartless? Get lost. Aren't you even considering the years we shared? Did you already find someone new?" The silence after his final question seemed like silent affirmation, fueling endless speculation. People leaped at the chance to judge, brandishing their perceived insights as "I always knew" smugness. In a clash of narratives, the imperfect victim suddenly justified his actions. Zheng Yuan's studio immediately issued a statement denying the accusations and included a lawyer's letter. Sensing the studio's stance, Zhou Shua quickly released a lengthy explanation, claiming he recorded their conversations as a work habit for review. He alleged his account was hacked, resulting in leaked recordings and sensitive work documents, with conveniently attached login alert screenshots. Bizarrely, the post received a wave of supportive comments, leaving the team feeling like they'd swallowed flies. Zhu Ning was incensed. "Sister Yuan, maybe we should just call the police. These people are insane," flooding her comments with insults. Flipping through the comments, she felt herself cooling down. The ones stirring things up are all trolls. They've been paid to steer the narrative. "I've seen this play out countless times. It's fine." The more success she achieved, the more enemies she attracted. This was no different. "We'll report this, of course," she said calmly. "But legal procedures take time, and by the time evidence is gathered, he'll have milked this for multiple rounds of publicity." Zhu Ning hesitated. "Should we hire a PR agency?" She thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. A two-way confrontation can be messy. But if a third party enters the picture, she outlined her plan. "For now, stay on top of online sentiment. Let's keep things moderate. Our streaming schedule will continue as usual. I'll handle the rest." The meeting adjourned, with everyone filing out slowly. Zhu Ning lingered, glancing back uncertainly. Mistaking her worry, Zheng Yuan reassured her. "Don't worry, it's handled. Get back to work." Zhu Ning looked as though she wanted to say more but finally nodded and closed the door. Zheng Yuan leaned back, watching sunlight bounce off the glass buildings outside, shimmering like waves. The sound of ringing filled the room, sharp as a siren. "Miss Song," she said as soon as the line connected, "I have a business proposal. Care to meet?" In the tranquil and elegant private room of a tea house, the air was filled with the soothing fragrance of tea. Yuan Zheng gracefully brewed a cup for the person across from her. Handing the cup to her guest, she apologized. "Miss Song, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding last time. If you don't mind, shall we start over?" Song Simiao shrugged it off with a hint of self-mockery. "We're all golden eggs in a cozy nest. We should understand each other, not place blame." Her tone turned a bit pointed. "Though, with all the news about you blowing up online recently, it's hard not to recognize Anchor Zheng. And the fact that you're reaching out to me means you know plenty about me." Yuan acknowledged her with a compliment. "Miss Song, you're sharp and insightful. It's no surprise your business is thriving." She continued, "I've heard your investment firm's ventures have all been quite distinctive. Qingyu wouldn't be where it is without your backing." Moving toward her point, Yuan said, "I don't believe you invested in Qingyu initially just out of personal feelings. In recent years, traditional culture has gained popularity in China, with jade carving out a significant niche. The luxury jade accessory market is almost untouched. Qingyu could have been a dark horse, but now it's nearly dead in the water. Are you really willing to let this opportunity slip by?" "You seem to have a proposal," Song replied, catching the drift. "I have the capital, and you have the platform. You're asking me to invest. Not an investment, partnership, a win-win." Yuan's expression turned serious. Song rested her chin on her hand, intrigued. "How so?" "Anchors like me avoid blatant self-promotion. It costs consumer trust. But you're different. I can't be directly involved, but you can. If Zhou Shua can latch onto my fame and stir things up, why can't we turn this buzz around and beat him at his own game?" Her eyes sparkled with confidence, laced with a touch of sarcasm. "A victim alliance, a cool big sister, of strong female leads revenge tale. Just think of the headlines." Song straightened, visibly interested. Yuan continued earnestly, "Whoever shapes the brand image first will get the biggest piece of the pie." "Well said." Song nodded in agreement. "If you go head-to-head with him, he'll cling like a fly." She added with a wry smile, "Zhou Shua may lack character, but he has an eye for the market. His paid bots might even turn his reputation around one day." With her index finger tapping her teacup, Song's gaze grew more serious. "Did you know he's been preparing a queen line?" Yuan paused, then smiled knowingly. "Yes, I do." Their eyes met, a mutual understanding passing between them. Raising her cup, Yuan proposed, "Rather than surround him from all sides, let's cut off his supply." Song lifted her own cup in response. "Victory awaits. Let's save the good wine for the celebration." The teacups clinked softly, a sound as sharp as the auctioneer's gavel striking the block. In May, with the weather turning warm, Zhou Shua simmered with frustration, cautiously voicing his discontent. "Brother Bao, isn't this a bit underhanded for business?" "Underhanded?" Brother Bao scoffed. "You're the one who broke the contract, with the final payment still pending. If we're splitting hairs, it's you who's at fault, not me." Zhou quickly defended himself. "I'm scrambling to raise the funds. I've swallowed my pride for it." Brother Bao softened his tone, sighing, "Brother, I've got a whole operation to run and plenty of guys relying on me. I can't delay my commitments." Pausing, he added, "Now someone's offering 10% more than your price, and while I'm mindful of our relationship, my people won't accept it." It was a blatant auction strategy. Hearing the call end abruptly, Zhou muttered a curse. If it weren't for the complicated situation in Myanmar and Brother Bao's monopoly over the jade supply, Zhou wouldn't have to bow to a thug. Pressing on his throbbing temple, he suppressed his anxiety. Qingyu was caught in a deadlock, and in his efforts to raise funds, Zhou had slashed prices repeatedly, only to be outplayed by his supplier. Now, with his cash running dry, he faced exorbitant costs for raw materials. Vicious. With Song Simiao's new venture, Miaoyu, and Yuan Zheng leading the charge, their plan to snatch his market share was clear. But humiliatingly enough, he lacked the resources to counter. Was it time to surrender? To file for bankruptcy protection? Taking a drag from his cigarette, Zhou's face darkened. In a nearby corner, Zhu Ning discreetly exited the product review meeting to take a call, immediately hissing, "Are you insane, calling me during work?" Whatever the reply, her face went pale, her immediate response frantic. "No, no, that crosses the line." "I'm cornered," came the reply, desperate and resolute. Zhu Ning's forehead dampened with sweat. "If you're going down this path, go alone. I'm not getting dragged into this mess." "You're already neck-deep," Zhou's distorted voice snarled through the phone. "When you leaked Yuan and Song's collaboration, or swapped jade samples 3 years ago." "Enough." Zhu Ning snapped, panic tightening her voice. "Remember, if I hadn't covered your tracks, you'd already be behind bars." The threat in Zhou's tone was unmistakable. "We're just taking it up a notch. As long as it stays covert, who will know? And even if they find out, who'll have the proof? In this game, it's winner take all. If we win, I'll cut you 10% of Qingyu. If we lose, we're both going down." Zhu Ning clenched her fists, caught in the mire. In early August, Qingyu suddenly launched its Empress series, flooding the market with rumors and national style marketing. With the market wide open, the series was an instant success, catching Miaoyu off guard. Miaoyu had planned to launch its flagship series a week later, spending the past 2 weeks building up anticipation for the national style theme. To their surprise, Qingyu beat them to it, essentially giving their competitor a free opportunity. This precise timing seemed like a direct strike aimed at Miaoyu. Zheng Yuan immediately called Leopard Brother, who was equally surprised. He confidently assured her that he hadn't supplied any products to Zhou Shua. If such a large batch of goods had been shipped out, he would have heard about it. In fact, he was hoping Zhou Shua would place an order so he could hike up the price, but Zhou Shua hadn't given him that chance. Zheng Yuan hung up the phone with a stern expression, feeling puzzled. Zhou Shua was promoting under the banner of Myanmar Jade, but she couldn't find any source of his goods. The plan to cut off his supply lines had failed. Zhu Ning handed her a cup of coffee, carefully watching her expression, and tentatively asked, "Do we still plan to launch the new series as scheduled?" Zheng Yuan paused for a moment before nodding. "Although we can't lead the market like before, we can't let all our previous efforts go to waste." She continued, "Once this blue ocean market is tapped, countless imitators will flood in within half a month. We've already taken the first step, so we can't waste this advantage." She suddenly changed the subject. "By the way, how's the repair of the electricity in Warehouse 1 going? I heard it had 2 power outages last week." Zhu Ning visibly flinched and replied, "Some of the wiring had aged, so I had the technician check it a few times. It's been fixed." "Good," Zheng Yuan nodded slowly. "Tomorrow, the factory workers will come to take the goods to be processed into the first batch of promotional gifts for the launch." Suddenly, Zhu Ning dropped the file in her hands with a loud thud, startling her. She quickly crouched down to pick it up, but felt dizzy. She forced a nervous laugh. "Gifts? Isn't it a bit too extravagant to use such expensive jade for gifts?" "Of course not," Zheng Yuan raised an eyebrow. "These are all mountain goods collected by Leopard Brother, mostly C-grade materials and fake glass stones. If we're lucky, we might find a few B-grade good pieces." She explained, "They need to be inspected and sorted by the jade experts before being processed into small crafts for gifts." Zhu Ning's throat tightened, struggling to speak, but those with certificates." Zheng Yuan casually responded, "Those certificates were fake, made by small vendors trying to pass off fake goods as genuine. After they were caught, Leopard Brother just took them and sent them to me." She smiled. "Those certificates are fake, made by small vendors, and they just sent them over with the goods." The jade market was full of both genuine and fake items, and it was difficult for the untrained to distinguish them. Leopard Brother might have thought Zheng Yuan intended to make a profit by selling fake goods, but didn't mind doing her a favor. However, Zheng Yuan wasn't involved in such unethical practices, so she simply intended to use them for small promotional gifts for members. Zheng Yuan added, "Don't worry. When we give them out, we'll clearly label them to let the customers know the truth. We'll just treat it as giving a small craft gift, so there won't be any misunderstandings." But Zhu Ning couldn't hear her words clearly. She felt a chill all over and couldn't stop thinking it's over. She had tried everything to get rid of the fake jade, only to accidentally exchange it for another batch of counterfeit materials. Because of the certificates, Zhou Shua hadn't done further verification before moving into production, and the goods were sold at prices based on A-grade jade evaluations. What would happen if the counterfeit goods were sold? Market disruption? Huge compensation? Zhou Shua was done for, and he would drag her down with him. Zhu Ning's scalp tingled, her mind was a blur, and she even thought about running away. What should she do now? She looked back, and through the glass, Zheng Yuan's face seemed blurry. How could this be such a coincidence? Zhou Shua had tried to pass fake goods to Zheng Yuan to destroy her career, but Zheng Yuan had preemptively sabotaged him, ruining his plan. Zhu Ning couldn't bear to think further. Was all of this part of the scheme between these two women? The events unfolded more rapidly than expected. While Zhu Ning was still calculating the costs and benefits, a blogger quickly pointed out the Empress Series Jade material fraud that night, triggering widespread discussion. The brand's official account immediately posted a certificate to counter the accusation, with many brand supporters mocking the blogger for attention-seeking, escalating the conflict. The blogger, ignoring the insults, stayed silent, but the next day quietly started a live stream, inviting an expert for on-the-spot authentication. The live stream result was conclusive, and the blogger single-handedly dethroned the rising brand, delivering a slap to the face of its critics. Qingyu's PR team finally realized the gravity of the situation. Every growing brand encounters smear campaigns during market expansion, and they had initially thought that this rumor wouldn't cause much of a stir. Now they realized the storm was much larger than anticipated. After the live stream incident, the story spread like wildfire, with an outpouring of consumer complaints flooding the official website, questioning and demanding refunds. It was hard to believe there was no behind-the-scenes hand at play. With such a large market, no one wanted to give up their position. Technically, genuine products can't be falsely claimed as fake, and quality should be the ultimate truth. Yet, Qingyu's authentication certificate, subjected to live stream scrutiny from netizens across the country, looked so fragile. The PR manager broke into a cold sweat, repeatedly contacting the boss but only receiving instructions to suppress the news, resorting to buying social media support to bury the heat. He couldn't understand the boss's logic. Trying to cover up would only result in a bigger backlash, damaging the brand's nascent reputation. A bad feeling began to gnaw at him. In fact, Zhou Shua's bad feeling was far worse. At this very moment, he sat in an airport waiting hall, watching the screens as his heart pounded, yet his anger and resentment simmered beneath the surface, unable to be suppressed. The live stream incident had been like a death toll, pulling Zhou Shua out of his blissful reverie. He had a bad feeling and rushed to the warehouse, inspecting several sets of jewelry ready for shipment. A tremendous wave of panic washed over him. In an attempt to rush the release, he had trusted Zhu Ning's information too much and had not conducted a second authentication after sneaking the goods back. With questionable origins, even though some of his subordinates may have noticed something off, none dared to ask given how taboo the boss seemed to treat it. Everything had been like a silent play, absurdly tragic, leading him toward the outcome of losing his entire fortune and landing in jail. Had Zhu Ning been deceiving him all along? Did Zheng Yuan and Song Simiao already know? A whirlwind of speculation churned in Zhou Shua's mind, yet he forced a relieved expression, calming his anxious employees before walking out of the company building as if nothing had happened. He squatted on the roadside, finishing the last half-pack of cigarettes in his pocket. Then, without even going home, he called the company and headed straight for the bank. When he made the decision to take risks, he had already prepared for the worst, but preparation didn't mean resignation. He withdrew 100,000 yuan and transferred all of it to an account in Myanmar. Once he settled abroad, the money would go through a few procedures to be transferred into his personal account, becoming his capital for a comeback. A loudspeaker announcement snapped Zhou Shua back to reality. He quickly stood up and walked toward the boarding gate, a sneaky sense of satisfaction rising in his heart. While abandoning his years of hard work was painful, the thought of Zheng Yuan discovering her revenge had failed was like a glass of ice water on a scorching day, easing his growing anxiety. Suddenly, there was a commotion behind him. Curious, Zhou Shua looked back, his breath catching in his throat. His palms instantly sweated. He casually turned around, but then he heard a thunderous stop. In a rush, he pushed through the crowd toward the check-in counter, only to have his arms twisted behind his back and his face slammed to the ground. "Do you know Zhu Ning?" a voice asked coldly. "This morning, she turned herself into the police and identified you as the mastermind behind a theft case. Mr. Zhou, you're suspected of theft and selling counterfeit products in large quantities. You won't be flying abroad anytime soon." As the car door slammed shut, Zhou Shua took one last look at the clear blue sky. When he turned his head, he unexpectedly met a pair of eyes, their gaze both amused and mocking. As the window rose, cutting off that cold gaze, Zhou Shua began struggling like a madman, only to be subdued by an electric shock. His body twitched, and he muttered incoherently, "Song Si Miao." Zheng Yuan felt that the saying "women are two-faced creatures" wasn't entirely without merit. To outsiders, she was sharp, decisive, and fierce, but in truth, she was overly sentimental and emotionally driven. Song Si Miao, on the other hand, appeared gentle, innocent, and soft, but in reality, she was resilient, decisive, and her mind far more profound than Zheng Yuan's. The two were sitting in a tea house. Song Si Miao calmly flipped through the contract, finalizing a huge investment in Qingyu. Yes, Qingyu, the personal brand of Zheng Yuan, Qingyu. To compensate the victims, Zhou Shua's company was going through bankruptcy liquidation, heading for a court auction. Unexpectedly, Zheng Yuan, one of the victims, bought the Qingyu brand trademark. By purchasing the trademark, Zheng Yuan took on the previous consumer losses, refunded the deceived customers in full, and even gave out membership discount cards. Although the transaction cost nearly 10 million, it successfully established Qingyu as a responsible, conscientious brand, effectively creating a brilliant brand marketing campaign. 2 weeks later, the reborn Qingyu teamed up with a museum to launch their signature Phoenix series. With its unique meaning and official endorsement, the collection sold out on the first day, proving the consumer's sympathy and recognition for the brand's owner, as well as the formidable purchasing power and brand loyalty, allowing Qingyu to firmly establish itself in the light luxury Chinese market. Meanwhile, Song Si Miao's brand launched the Taoyao series. Using plants from the Book of Songs as design elements, the mid-range prices won the love of youthful consumers, thus avoiding the more mature professional women and wealthy ladies targeted by the Phoenix series. When Zheng Yuan initially invested in Miaoyu, both parties had agreed on mutual stockholding. Much like Unilever's portfolio of oral care brands, Song Si Miao's ambitions were far beyond just Miaoyu. Now that they had discovered this gold mine, there was no reason to stop at just scratching the surface. She was aiming for a conglomerate, standing above all the brands. And clearly, she was succeeding. Even though the marketing strategies were jointly discussed, Zheng Yuan couldn't help but applaud Song Si Miao's cunning and leadership. Zhou Shua had tried to take advantage of her, but he had kicked the iron plate. His defeat was well-deserved. "You won't regret your choice," Song Si Miao said, signing her name on the contract. Zheng Yuan's eyes curved into a smile. "Of course, you've proven to me that being your enemy is an unfortunate choice." Song Si Miao raised her teacup. "Mutual, then. We are the best partners." Zheng Yuan raised her cup in return. "To the best partners?" With the steam rising from their tea, the two shared a smile, drinking together in satisfaction.